So far, it's extremely rare to happen in Europe. So we, in a decade, we have it maybe a handful of time or less. So in this size of affected an entire system, and here 2 countries essentially are entirely blacked out, that happens extremely rarely. And I urge some patients here. In other cases, it has often taken several months to understand what the root cause of the issue was. What we understand is after the root cause essentially triggered some oscillations in the power grid. At some moment, demand and supply installation started to decouple in an automatic way. And when one installation decouples, the frequency drops further, then another installation decouples, and then within essentially a second, the entire system goes down. So we understand what happens after the frequency limits are breached, but we do not fully understand yet what was the initial trigger of that. At that stage, it is still unknown what caused the initial escalation of the oscillations in the Iberian grid. So what we have observed is that before the grid broke down, that the frequency in the system deviated quite substantially from the normal 50 Hertz in 2 big instances, and there must have been a reason for that. The big challenge is now still understanding what has been the initial problem in the system, and if we understand that, we can certainly address that. One element that has been discussed in the Iberian case was that thanks to the success of renewables, there was at the time relatively limited amounts of flexible capacities in the system, relatively limited amounts of rotating masses in the system, and the question is to which degree we might need instruments in the system to encourage more of such inertia and flexibility to be provided in the market. But I still would like to caution, we need first to understand what happened before we call for recipes to resolve that. Well, on a European level, the good news is that the cross-border lines helped a lot to re-establish very quickly the power supply in Spain. So French exports to Spain helped to restart the system, and it shows that the internal market is really helping as a country. There are very different reasons for power outages. So in principle, an electricity system consists of many different power plants, transmission lines, and substations that bring the electricity then from the high voltage grid down to consumers. In the Spanish case, we are talking about a problem at the high voltage grid, so it happened throughout the entire country. So seemingly in one of those 3 elements that I mentioned, something must have happened. A power outage then typically unfolds when one of the elements is having a severe issue and it cannot be recovered through an alternative. Normally in power system we have what is called the N-1 criteria, which means that every installation in the system is allowed to fail, and there is an alternative installation available that makes sure that then the system does not fail if one element fails. That certainly didn't work out in the Spanish case seemingly. And then if the system fails, what typically happens is that the frequency falls below a certain level in the system, which then triggers generators and consumers to automatically decouple from the system in order to protect the corresponding assets that are connected to the grid, which means that almost immediately all the generators are getting decoupled from the system to protect their integrity, which means the system is essentially down, and then it takes typically hours, tens of hours, to recover the system from rock bottom again.